6 p.m. in Bello Division, that is in the Northwest region. Same time right here in Akwadola. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. First, our major stories. An alleged assassin stabs a man to death in the Mimboman neighborhood in the central region of Cameroon. Speaking to the press, he says his decision to stab the man 12 times was to show proof of his capabilities so as to be admitted as a gang member. Also in this edition of the news, we'll also take you to a neighborhood known as North Makumbe in the Camp Division, Littoral region of Cameroon. Here, movement is almost impossible due to the abandonment of construction works on the Mao Bridge by the company in charge. Our reporter Smarty Kangaber in some few minutes will explain to us how the situation is affecting activities in this area. Those are major stories. Stay with us for details and more. Ladies and gentlemen, for always choosing Equinoxe television for presentation, I am Immaculate Fogwe. Let's now talk insecurity in the central region, precisely at the Kwabang and Mimboman neighborhoods, where a 27-year-old man was stabbed to death by an alleged assassin. During the crime reconstruction scene, the alleged assassin says the act was to show proof of his capabilities so he could be admitted into a group made up of bandits. Annabella, a staff lady, is the lady on that story.
27-year-old Zico Simo Atuivan was murdered in cold blood on August 4, 2024 in Mimboman in Yaoundé. The alleged murderer attested to his act during the crime reconstruction. According to the superintendent of police in Ekunu, the assassin expressed his wish to join a gang of armed bandits. The gang leader in turn asked him to prove his prowess by killing a human being.
And he had an accomplice, a collaborator, with whom they have had some arguments that if you are a strong guy, you can kill. When you kill, I will recruit you in my gang.
The superintendent of police as well explains how the criminal was apprehended.
So he decided to escape the crime scene, went to a church, but in the church they didn't recognize this guy as a member of the church. So by the time he wanted to leave the church, his pullover was being seized. And the particulars of the deceased were inside this pullover. So he was coming back now to take back his pullover in order to go and prove to his other gangmates that he has been able to kill somebody.
The victim's father, in total fury, invokes the heavens on those who brutally took away the life of his son.
Je lui ai posé ces questions. Pourquoi tu as fait ça à mon fils? Il me dit, j'étais en mission. Nous, on appartient à un gang.
Security forces call on the people of Kwabang in Yaoundé to report any case of drug trafficking or criminality in the area.
He takes narcotics, but people are unable to signal to the police. So we are calling on the population to tell us before time. Come and signal to us. We are not going to disclose your identity.
Zico Simo Atuivan died after being stabbed 12 times with sharp knives and other objects.
Je lui ai demandé et pourquoi autant de coups. Il a dit je voulais m'assurer qu'il est bien mort.
Investigations continue.
Staff lady Annabella reporting there. Coming up next, our reporter Innocent Azad takes us to the New Bell neighborhood, where victims of a recent demolition exercise continue to denounce injustice. The victims recently met with the senior divisional officer for Ori, and they explain some of the ordeals. We have details in this report.
These are persons whose houses and shops were demolished on a vast land several months back in New Bell Cimetière Douala 2 subdivision by a certain Madame Ndele, who brandished the documents she is entitled to the land. For months now, they have been seeking justice from authorities.
Nous sommes déjà venus plusieurs fois ici et les vraies choses vont se faire.
Thus, they could not succumb to injustice.
Nous sommes victimes du faux, victimes d'abus. Du mal.
From a consultation meeting called for by the Wuri SDO with the summoned woman, represented by her lawyer, a sigh of relief could be read on their faces. Justice is near. In the meeting, the SDO asked everyone to compute the total size of Madame Ndele's 3 land titles presented by her lawyer. The total result was 1.59 hectares, whereas the document presented shows 2.80 hectares and the demolition extended to 4 hectares. Even the SDO was shocked by the gross injustice.
Regardez l'enfant, est-ce que vous avez fait que vous voyez les familles souffrir comme ils souffrent là? Il a baissé la tête, il a dit que vraiment.
Filled with embarrassment, according to Madame Ndele's victims, the lawyer quickly told the SDO his client did not carry out the demolition.
Il a dit au préfet que ce n'est pas Ndele qui a cassé.
He was unable to tell the SDO who demolished the houses and shops on the land.
Vous devez défendre quoi?
We are suffering here in North Makumbe because of water from River Mahu. You sent people to come and construct a bridge, but after putting iron, they disappeared to an unknown destination.
Now you, Monsieur le Ministre, now you go fund them. Who then don't do for countries, now you go fund them.
The inhabitants of North Makumbe who have crossed the river on foot before going to the farms have sent this call to the head of the country. We are telling the head of state that water will soon finish all of us in North Makumbe, and if we are all gone, there will be no one to support you. The cry of the inhabitants of North Makumbe is for the construction works to be relaunched.
And in health, nutritionists say eating a balanced breakfast can help boost a child's metabolism throughout the day. Dietitians urge parents to avoid giving children junk food and also reduce their salt intake. Coming up next, Asia Lucy Liengu spoke with some nutritionists who will now explain to us how a healthy diet should look like as far as kids are concerned.
A nutritious breakfast meal supports brain functioning, improves concentration, memory, and learning abilities. Reason why breakfast is important for everyone, including children. The choice of the first meal for a child varies from parent to parent. On Mondays, I buy milk. On Tuesdays, I fry Irish potatoes, ripe plantain, and fried eggs. I prefer bread and chocolate mostly because it is cheap.
Je mange avec les pommes frites, les œufs.
What a child eats in the morning also depends on the purchasing power of each parent. Nutritionists advise that children from 3 to 5 years should eat a balanced diet in the morning.
For children 3 to 5 years, for the breakfast is important in the morning, and you should consider the fact that they are active, and you should make sure that their diet is rich, it is balanced. It should be protein rich and not carbohydrate dense. You can do maybe a bread and omelette, or bread and boiled egg, or bread and maybe a carrot sauce or tomato sauce or egg sauce, because it is rich in protein and it also contains carbohydrate that a child needs for the daily activities.
The dietary consultant recommends less salty foods and sugary drinks.
In as much as they are active, they need energy. Give something that is warm in the morning for the child to begin the day with.
However, leftover or warmed food can be harmful to a child's health if it is not well stored and heated properly.
Asia Lucy Liengu reporting there. Now out of Cameroon, Senegal's president Bassirou Diomaye Faye promises to combat human trafficking. He was speaking shortly after a deadly shipwreck. The said ship had on board migrants. Meantime, South Africa's coalition government is facing its first major threat after divisions between ANC and the DP parties arose over a disputed education bill. Details with Cedric Chakutio.
Africa is seeing the first cracks appear in its national unity government. The object of the discord is an education law voted in May 2024 by Parliament and that President Cyril Ramaphosa is preparing to sign this Friday. The Center-Right Democratic Alliance, its leader, the current Minister of Agriculture, reiterated their opposition to this text this Wednesday, which now threatens the stability of the government. During negotiations to form a coalition government, the Democratic Alliance, until then the largest opposition party in South Africa, had indicated its rejection of the education law, in particular because of the changes it brings to the autonomy of public schools, which will have less latitude to choose their language policy. Elsewhere in Senegal, 3 days after a devastating shipwreck off the coast of Bour, which claimed the life of over 125 people, search operations for survivors continue despite the slim chances of finding any. In response to the crisis, President Bassirou Diomaye Faye visited Bour on Wednesday evening, visibly distressed by the severity of the situation.
The nation is in mourning, and the situation is particularly unbearable. On behalf of this nation, the Senegalese nation, I would like to extend my condolences to the grieving families. What has happened here in Bour and somewhat everywhere along the Senegalese coast is the result of migration networks involved in human trafficking, exploiting the despair of these youth and selling them the dream of a better future.
While the president has criticized human trafficking networks, there is growing frustration among the public with the new government's focus. Critics argue that the administration has failed to prioritize the addressing the unemployment crisis among Senegalese youth. Moussa Diakate, a human rights specialist and MP, has long warned of these issues but feels his concerns have been ignored.
That's it for this first part of the news. Talking Point is up next. How is the population of Bamenda, chieftain of the Northwest, coping amid the separatist-imposed lockdown? That's what we're looking at on today's edition of Talking Point. And on standby in Bamenda is our Northwest correspondent, Frederick Takang. Hello, Frederick Takang. How is Bamenda today?
Immaculate, thank you very much. Bamenda is calm. Since Monday, the 9th of September, places are locked, businesses are closed. When you move around Commercial Avenue, you go around Quen, Maitri, and other quarters in Bamenda here, people are at home. It's difficult to see people moving along the street. So we have been witnessing what we call lockdown or ghost town decreed by a non-state armed group. And it's very, very effective, except quarter like up stations where you will see people moving, at least moving, not too many of them, but they are moving. Some are even going on with their businesses. But generally, every place is quiet. When you move also to schools, some schools have resumed even before the 9th of September. I'm talking about a school like Our Lady of Lourdes and other mission schools. But most all the public schools are still yet to resume. I've moved to some of these schools, and you see that no children have maybe taken an option to go back to school. You can see the principal and others, but children have not yet resumed to school. So I will just say that people have chosen maybe to stay at home to avoid any unforeseen circumstances after after this lockdown that was decreed by non-state armed group. So we are still to see how things are moving, but people have chosen to remain at home to be safe than maybe and wait maybe the day that the lockdown will come to an end so that they can resume back to their normal activities.
Frederick Takang, how are you, your family, and the entire population of the Northwest region coping with the situation? Were you all able to store food that can last for at least 2 weeks?
Effectively, Immaculate, nobody is exempted with this lockdown. Everybody is at home. Even me, I'm at home with my family. You know, before this lockdown was come to an effective, they announced it. So have to go to the market with my wife and other to look for what we will eat during these 2 weeks of ghost town. We have been able to store some food and then try to make some provisions so that for the number of days that this lockdown will take place, we'll be able at least to live, to survive. It's not easy, but we are doing like that. So not only me, I think if you were here in Bamenda, you will notice that some days before the beginning of this lockdown, many people, many inhabitants invaded market to make sure that they have things that they will go and store at home so that when these things continue, at least they will be able to eat. You know, children are at home. When children are at home, they eat a lot, and you have to make provision also for them. And we are at home normally with them. So, and most often, we are trying also to see how we can, while waiting the official, maybe the day that place will be open, we are trying to see how we can start by giving them some lessons at home while waiting that when places will open and then school will effectively resume. That is our hope. But we are there managing. It's not easy. You know, you are at home, you sleep, you wake up, maybe you don't have anything to do. You are just there to consume, not being productive. So that is the situation.
What about business persons, especially those dealing with perishable goods? How is the lockdown affecting them at the moment?
Businesses are closed everywhere. We have the main market, for example, at the Commercial Avenue. There is the desert. Nobody is there. All the shops, everywhere is closed. And you know, it's a huge loss for all those people who have businesses. Imagine that you lock your store for 2 weeks. How will you be able to pay those who are working there? How will you be able to pay the workers? How will you be able to pay maybe your rent and even the loan you have taken maybe to stock the store? So you see, it's a huge loss for those who have businesses here in Bamenda. So some have even closed their shop maybe forever because of the situation. The income, we don't have income, but we just have all this peripecy, lockdown, climate of insecurity, and so on and so forth. So that is the situation. For those who have what we call a perishable good, you know, when you buy tomatoes, you buy this vegetable, you buy plantain. Imagine that those things have to pass 2 weeks at home. You can imagine. We have just to maybe to eat it at home. For those who make provision for that, those buy and sell at the food market, sure that the one that they did not sell on that Sunday, breaking Monday night, breaking the day that the ghost town have to start, surely that they have taken all those things at home and they have to eat it. And when you eat, that is your capital you are eating. So you see, it's very difficult. It's unfortunate situation, and the inhabitants are really paying the huge price here.
Indeed, it's an unfortunate situation. As a reporter, what are some of the challenges you have been facing on the field since the escalation of the armed conflict?
In a war zone, let me call it like that, is a very challenging situation, Immaculate. You know, access to information has been one of the most difficult way for us journalists to deal with. That is very difficult for you to deal with that. People are afraid. People do not want to give information out. Not only the administration, even the population. You will go to an area where there's something has just happened, and then you want to talk maybe to those who have witnessed the situation. Nobody's willing to maybe to share the story with you. So you see, access to information is one of the difficulty. Also, moving around. Imagine we cannot move around because of the insecurity. When something happened in Kumbo, in Kambe, everywhere, you have to sit on a spot, gather the informations, and sometimes difficult to get the right person. You know, information also deal with sources. Sometimes you don't have the right people who have the A1, as we call the main information to share with you. So those are some of the difficulties. And we still have this thing of harassment. You see, sometimes they can harass you on social media, harass you online, and so forth and so on, because maybe people want you to be partisan for this party or that party. which is very, very difficult. I still believe that we still need a lot of education to do on that, because journalists are people who are neutral as far as conflict is concerned. They have to leave them to do their job. Some of us have been victims, you know, and we are still pleading that party involved in this situation, they should know that media men, journalists like us, are there just to do, to carry on their job and maybe give information for the population to make the right decision.
Now, given that the population is respecting the separatist imposed lockdown, do you think the government of Cameroon still has control over this region?
That is a very tricky question, Immaculate. You know, let me just tell you what is really happening. You know, before the opening, maybe the official day of school resumption, I went to the market or some area where they sell books and second-hand books, etc., bookshops, and I saw how the population was there, eager to prepare the back to school for their children. So the parents want their children to go back home. So just to say, the lockdown is there, the ghost town are there, but I believe, for what I've seen, that the parents are respecting, or population are respecting it, not because they want their children to stay at home, no, just because of fear. Fear has been the main reason. Most of them have told us that they are afraid that something may happen to their children when they are alone, they're not going to schools. So they are respecting the ghost town, not because they are daring, no. They want the safety for their children. That is why they have decided to keep their children at home. So you see, just to let you know that the government also is doing its own part. You see, they have done everything to reassure the population that they have put security measures. They have even hold meeting, make campaign during holiday, how do I call, jamboree and football tournament. They pass on the message that people should go back to school. But people are still afraid. You know, before the day, the official day of this resumption, many things happened in Bamenda, many attacks. You see, people lost their life, the attacks on taxis, the attacks on civilians, the attacks on the military, and etc. and etc. So that is a climate that we are, that even contributed for people or for inhabitants in Bamenda to prefer to stay at home. Prefer to stay at home, if I can say so. So government has a control. They are there. Even as I'm talking right now, they have deployed troops around the city of Bamenda. You will see Amoka, you will see Shah, and all those things. You will see more deployment, but people are still at home. Let us just wait and see what will happen after the 2 weeks.
Despite the fact that these troops have been deployed in Bamenda, we see that nothing has changed. The people are still scared to go outside. Now, how can the population stay safe in the midst of continuous attacks and uncertainty that reigns in this region?
Let me just say, everybody or any person living in this area has defined the way he has to take his own proper security. For example, there are areas that people don't go. There are times that people don't stay more outside. You will see, for example, in Bamenda here, as from 6 p.m., everybody is at home. People are rushing to go back home. That is maybe their own way to think that they can stay safe. Going back home early at home. There are areas that you know that you cannot go. There are red zones that all of us know. So you see, that is the way people have chosen. When you take example, the attack on taxi, some people have even chosen not to take taxi. People choose to trek. When they want to go to office, they choose to trek. Some people prefer to take bike than to take taxi because of the fear of an unknown. So you see, everybody, as I said, have defined his own way to remain, his own or her own way to remain safe in this particular situation. Attacks may happen anywhere where you are. It's just being vigilant, and when you see that there is something fidgeting, maybe it's prefer you go home or you take security measures. So even us journalists, you see, most often there are situations that we prefer just to let it go than to take an unnecessary risk. that maybe will temper to your life. It's better to be a journalist where you are living than to be a dead journalist. So those are some of the measures. So there are many, but everybody has taken, depending where you stay, depending the situation you live, everybody has defined the way he will remain safe. So, as I say, we are waiting for the lockdown to come to the pass so that people can be able to resume with their normal activities.
Thank you so much, Frederick Takang, for accepting my invitation.
Okay, thank you very much, Immaculate. Thank you. We are still at home. We hope that the 2 weeks lockdown will come to an end. And we know that according to what was said, Saturday and Sunday will be open for people to go back home, to go back to the market, for example, to make other provisions so that they can still pass another week at home. So, but we are waiting, and parents and everybody are waiting that the 2 weeks should pass so that they should send their children back to school. Thank you very much.
Frederick Takang, Equinoxe TV Bamenda-based correspondent, thank you so much for your time. That's what put an end to today's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for always staying with us. Coming up next in some few minutes will be Equinoxe Soir with Serge Alain Otto. Bye-bye for now. See you tomorrow, same time, God willing.